Something extremely unusual is happening across the United States right now, and multiple regions are about to get hit with completely different threats over the next 48 hours. The pattern we're tracking is creating a perfect storm of hazards from coast to coast. Here's the situation. A massive Arctic air mass has pushed unusually far south and west, reaching deep into the Rockies and the Great Basin. At the same time, warm air is holding strong across the eastern United States. The collision zone between these two systems is creating an explosive setup across the Central Plains. But that's not all we're dealing with. A powerful coastal storm is spinning up over the Atlantic Ocean near New England, bringing heavy impacts to the northeast coastline. This is a multi-threat weather event affecting nearly every corner of the country. Let's break down what's happening from a continental perspective. The jet stream has buckled into an extreme pattern, with a deep trough digging into the western United States and a ridge holding across the east. This configuration is forcing Arctic air to spill directly into areas that don't typically see this kind of cold this early. Western and central Canada are experiencing some of the most intense cold of the season. This frigid air is streaming southward directly into the northern Rockies and the northern plains. We're talking about temperatures that are 25 to 35 degrees below normal in some locations. Meanwhile, the Gulf of Mexico continues pumping warmth and moisture northward. The sharp boundary where these two air masses meet is creating an incredibly active weather corridor. This is the kind of setup that produces significant severe weather and rapid transitions from rain to snow. Starting with the Pacific coast and the west, moisture is streaming onshore from the ocean. Seattle and Vancouver are dealing with steady rain as Pacific systems continue rolling in. This is typical northwest weather, but the story changes quickly as you move inland. The Cascades and the northern Rockies are getting hammered with snow. Idaho, Montana, and Wyoming are all seeing significant snowfall as that Pacific moisture encounters the cold air that's pushed into the region. Mountain passes could become treacherous over the next 24 hours. Denver and Cheyenne are under the influence of that Arctic air mass. Temperatures have dropped sharply, and scattered snow showers are moving through Colorado and Wyoming. This is unusually cold air for this time of year, and it's creating hazardous conditions across the higher terrain. The cold is so intense in the northern Rockies that even lower elevations are dealing with well below freezing temperatures. Boise, Salt Lake City, and other typically milder cities are feeling the full force of this Arctic invasion. Now let's talk about the Central Plains and the Midwest, because this is where the most dangerous weather is developing right now. An intense storm system is organizing right along that sharp temperature gradient. We're looking at a corridor that stretches from Oklahoma all the way through Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa, and into Minnesota. This is not your typical frontal passage. The energy along this boundary is creating a long line of extremely active weather. The southern end of this system near Oklahoma and Kansas is dealing with severe thunderstorm potential. Heavy rainfall, frequent lightning, and strong wind gusts are all in play. Oklahoma City and Topeka are sitting right in the danger zone. The latest data shows intense convective activity firing up across central Oklahoma and Kansas. This is classic severe weather territory, with all the ingredients coming together for potentially damaging storms. The atmosphere is extremely unstable across this region. Warm, humid air is surging northward from the Gulf, while cold, dry air is pressing in from the west. When you get this kind of clash, severe weather is almost guaranteed. As you move north along this storm corridor, the threat changes dramatically. Nebraska and Iowa are in a critical transition zone. Omaha and Des Moines are positioned right where the precipitation type is going to flip from heavy rain to heavy snow or even freezing rain. This is one of the trickiest forecasts because small shifts in temperature can make huge differences in what falls from the sky. Right now, the data suggests these areas could see intense rainfall that rapidly transitions to snow as the cold air wraps in behind the front. The timing of that transition is crucial. If it happens during the evening rush hour, road conditions could deteriorate extremely quickly. Black ice is a serious concern in this setup. Further north into Minnesota and northern Iowa, we're expecting this to be a significant winter storm. The heavy precipitation combined with the Arctic air is going to produce substantial snowfall. Some areas could see 6 to 12 inches or more, along with strong winds creating blowing and drifting snow. Minneapolis and surrounding areas need to prepare for genuine winter storm conditions. This isn't going to be light flurries. We're talking about heavy, wet snow with reduced visibility and hazardous travel conditions. One of the biggest concerns across the Central Plains is flash flooding potential. The southern portion of this storm system near Oklahoma and Kansas could see training thunderstorms that dump extremely heavy rainfall in short periods. When you get multiple inches of rain in just a few hours, flash flooding becomes a serious threat. Low-lying areas, small streams, and urban zones with poor drainage are particularly vulnerable. Tulsa, Wichita, and surrounding communities need to monitor this closely. If you encounter water over the road, turn around immediately. The wind is also going to be a major factor with this system. As the pressure gradient tightens, we're expecting sustained winds of 30 to 40 miles per hour with higher gusts. This will create blowing snow conditions in the northern zones and could cause power outages where severe thunderstorms develop. Now let's shift our attention to the northeast, because an entirely separate system is causing problems there. A strong coastal low-pressure system has developed over the Atlantic Ocean, and it's bringing significant impacts to New England. Boston and the entire New England coastline are getting hammered by this nor'easter. Strong onshore winds are creating rough surf and coastal flooding concerns. Rainfall is heavy along the immediate coast, while inland areas are seeing a mix of rain and snow. Portland, Maine is dealing with some of the worst conditions, with heavy precipitation and winds gusting over 50 miles per hour in some locations. This kind of coastal storm can cause beach erosion, flooding in low-lying coastal areas, and power outages from falling trees. The duration of this coastal storm is concerning. It's not moving quickly, which means these impacts are going to persist for the next 24 to 36 hours. Coastal communities need to prepare for prolonged periods of heavy rain and strong winds. The good news for the mid-Atlantic and southeast is that they're largely spared from these active weather systems. Areas from Virginia south through the Carolinas and into Georgia and Florida are under the influence of warm, stable air. Conditions remain quiet and pleasant across this region. However, the Gulf Coast is also staying dry and mild. New Orleans, Houston, and Mobile are all seeing above normal temperatures with plenty of sunshine. The moisture that would typically affect these areas is being pulled northward into that storm system over the Central Plains. Let's talk about Canada's role in all of this, because what's happening north of the border is driving much of this pattern. Western and central Canada are locked in an intense Arctic outbreak. The cold air over the Canadian prairies is some of the coldest we've seen this season. This cold is not staying in Canada. It's spilling southward across the border into Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, and Minnesota. Bismarck and other northern plains cities are experiencing dangerous cold with temperatures well below zero and wind chills that could cause frostbite in minutes. Winnipeg and Calgary are also dealing with extreme cold. This Arctic high-pressure system is massive, and it's not going anywhere quickly. The cold is going to linger across the northern tier of the United States for several days. Looking at the next 24 to 36 hours, the Central Plains storm system is going to continue intensifying as it tracks northeastward. By tomorrow, the heaviest snow will be falling across Minnesota and Wisconsin, while severe weather continues across Kansas and Nebraska. The coastal storm in New England will gradually pull away from the coast tomorrow afternoon, finally bringing relief to that region. However, another shot of cold air will follow behind both of these systems, reinforcing the below-normal temperatures across much of the country. The temperature contrast we're seeing is truly remarkable. Denver could be 30 degrees colder than Dallas, even though they're at similar latitudes. Boston is dealing with raw, damp conditions in the 40s, while Atlanta is enjoying pleasant weather in the 70s. This kind of sharp temperature gradient across the country is what creates these active weather patterns. The atmosphere is trying to balance out these extremes, and in the process, it creates storms, wind, and rapid weather changes. For those in the Central Plains corridor, tonight is going to be critical. The severe weather threat will peak this evening across Oklahoma and Kansas. By overnight, the transition to winter weather begins across Nebraska and Iowa. Tomorrow morning, Minnesota wakes up to a full-blown winter storm. The northeast coastline should see gradual improvement tomorrow afternoon as the coastal storm finally moves away. But it's going to be a rough night tonight, with continuing heavy rain, strong winds, and coastal flooding concerns. Travel is going to be extremely challenging across multiple regions. If you're planning to be on the roads in the Central Plains, Upper Midwest, or New England, seriously reconsider those plans. The combination of severe thunderstorms, heavy snow, and strong winds creates dangerous conditions. Airlines are likely to see disruptions at major hubs like Denver, Minneapolis, Kansas City, and Boston. If you have flights through any of these airports over the next 24 hours, stay in close contact with your airline. This is a high-impact weather event affecting millions of people across multiple time zones. The complexity of this pattern means different regions are facing completely different threats, but they're all significant. We'll continue tracking these systems closely over the next several hours. Make sure you have multiple ways to receive weather warnings, especially if you're in the Central Plains or New England. Conditions can change rapidly with setups like this. Stay safe, stay weather aware, and keep checking back for updates as these systems continue to evolve.